problem that we have to address if we're ever going to get a handle on the girth of the defense budget. Whoever is elected president is going to face this problem, and it'll be great if whoever that person is started getting serious about understanding the defense budget, got into the audit problem, and started picking apart how we're spending this money. Picking apart how we're spending this money. Picking apart how we're spending this money. Picking apart how we're spending this money.
Of course, there's a great deal of debate about the wisdom of any Pentagon cut, even small ones. Joining us now from Washington is Thomas Donnelly. He's director of the Center for Defense Studies. Washington is Thomas Donnelly. He's director of the Center for Defense Studies. Washington is Thomas Donnelly. He's director of the Center for Defense Studies at the American Enterprise Institute. Tom Donnelly, you just heard three slightly different arguments, but they all ended up in the same place, that the military budget of this country could, even should be cut. Place that the military budget of this country could, even should be cut.
Well, one of the themes that seemed to come through was that of affordability. And I think that's a very, very squishy term. You just have to remember what the size of our economy is, what the size of our defense budget is, and where the federal government spends its money. So in a $15 trillion, almost $16 trillion economy, $500 or $600 billion for defense, $500 or $600 billion for defense, $500 or $600 billion for defense. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of money, but it's not that big a slice of the pie, slice of the pie, slice of the pie. And also, as a slice of federal spending, it's the case that defense spending is going down as a proportion, and what's really escalating are the cost of entitlements and debt service. That accounts for about 60 cents out of every federal dollar. So if we measure things by even real dollars, constant dollars across time, the cost of military power has increased, but as a burden on the economy, it remains less than 4%, and even if you include the war costs, it's less than 5%, less than a nickel out of Americans' dollar.
One of the things that occasions this debate at all is the fact that the Defense Department, like other parts of the federal government, is staring down the barrel of a budget gun that goes off if the super committee can't finish its work. Are you suggesting that defense should be spared? Are you suggesting that defense should be spared? Are you suggesting that defense should be spared from the kind of cuts, that elected leaders in Washington are saying have to be made across the board? That elected leaders in Washington are saying have to be made across the board. That elected leaders in Washington are saying have to be made across the board.
I am, but I would also observe that the defense budget has been cut a lot in recent years. It's the one part of government that you're
in the coming years. Is it reasonable for people to look at the defense budget and say, okay, we're not doing that anymore. Okay, we're not doing that anymore. Maybe we could spend a little bit.
Well, first of all, I don't think that the withdrawal from Iraq or Afghanistan is a strategically wise thing to do. Our strategic interests in the region are really the same as they've always been, and just as large as they've always been. So let's hope that this is a withdrawal that doesn't lead to further instability, and we don't get, don't find ourselves in a position where we have to take action again. And so I would say that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I would say that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I would say that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
We saw some graphs during the conversation that talked about how much smaller the forces are.
technology, say in air-to-air exchanges, technology, say in air-to-air exchanges, technology, say in air-to-air exchanges. I think history has really answered this question as to whether high technology makes for more combat effectiveness. The kinds of exchange ratios that you see in the Arab-Israeli conflicts, we haven't had an airplane shot down by an enemy in decades and decades that have flown hundreds of thousands of combat sorties in Iraq and Afghanistan. Not that the Taliban had much of an air force, but the effectiveness of these systems, I'll stand by.
Is this a conversation that's being, in some ways, conducted in the dark because this is one of the few budgets generated by the federal government that's not audited, that's not audited, that's not audited, that's not audited, that's not audited.
I don't buy that, honestly. We know essentially what we're getting, the detail available in the defense budget is actually mind-numbing. And it's best to take a step back and sort of look at the big picture in order to really understand where the bad decisions are being made. The waste, fraud, and abuse is more in buying things that are poorly designed for the wrong kinds of wars. Things like pretending we're never going to get in the land war again and reducing our land forces to the point where they couldn't successfully conduct campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan at the same time. So it's the policy mistakes that are really the most costly, not the programmatic mistakes.
Critics of the defense budget point out that the United States Department of Defense has a budget that if you add the next 20 militaries in the world, it still doesn't equal the United States military budget. How big does the United States military have to be to keep the United States safe?
Well, I would say that it has to be large enough to continue to secure our global interests and to keep the international system as successful and peaceful as it has been. The fact that our budget is larger than Iran's budget or what Saddam Hussein's military budget used to be, or the